Shalom. Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all the praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone for teaching this truth according to the Bible. A sincere shalom to all the fellow laborers who push this truth and believe in this truth in the last days here in Babylon the Great, as we are called to do so. Today's video is going to be a land back on what the elder from North Carolina posted, all right, about 18 hours ago. The title on this video is Nasty Work by Rich Tidwell. Okay, and I've heard of this guy. I think I've done a video on this guy, Edomite Christian pastor. Okay, and the audacity on this guy is amazing. All right, for some reason now there's all of a sudden this massive attention on who the Israelites are, and you know, and in this video, this guy Rich Tidwell, who is a false prophet in every sense of the word. Okay, he is an Edomite. All right, he is going to try to make the case that the Europeans, all right, the so-called white man, Esau, Edom in the Bible, the devil himself, in fact, they are the ones that are the Israelites of the lost tribes. And it's quite hilarious to see this man go into what his reasoning is. He's going to pull out, of course, the DNA, right? DNA. We all know that DNA has no reliability on where your biblical ancestral and nationality comes from. Okay. We all know that. All right. And, you know, it's just funny to see Esau in such a panic. Okay. You know what happened? All right. What happened was that this pastor Tidwell, okay, he's been watching the Hebrew Israelites. He's been watching the men of the Great Millstone. I know that for a fact. Okay. And, you know, we are starting with our elders. Okay. Starting with Elder Pastor Har on down. Okay. And the elders and the bishops. Okay. And the apostles of Great Millstone, bringing out these straight scriptures, hot fire upon Esau, Edom. And it is absolutely destroying their self-esteem. It's destroying their self-image. It's destroying their false perception of the world that they've held for so long. This false sense of security, this false sense of Edomite superiority, and just a bunch of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans bringing out the scriptures, unlearned men. Okay. And they are absolutely terrified by what we are bringing out of these scriptures, because they have ignored the entirety of the scriptures for so long, only bringing out the few manipulated, changed, and absolutely doctored doctrines that they've wanted to bring out for the last 800 years. Okay. And now that the truth is coming out, now this guy, Rich Tidwell, wants to make a video talking about how so-called white people, the so-called white man in Europe, is actually the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. It's laughable. Okay, and this is to ignore, all right? This is to ignore all the scriptures that specifically describe to you what the Israelites not only look like, but the prophecies on how they would be living until the end days when the Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach returns with his mighty angels. You know, now I'm going to go to a few examples of what the Israelites actually look like, and a couple examples as to what the Israelites are going to, the conditions on earth that they're going to be living under. Okay, for the signs, right? The signs that would be put on them to let them know that they were indeed and in fact the Israelites. So let's watch this video, because it's absolutely hilarious the way he tries
final
to break this
and most
down.
conclusive proof that what I'm telling you is the truth from the Bible. Europeans are the Israelites.
Europeans are the Israelites.
The principal component analysis of modern West Eurasians, showing us exactly how the Shemite populations work. The Shemite populations are everyone on here. Everyone I've talked about that's being a Shemite is listed here. You have over here Levantine and Shemite populations, Caucasians, Iranian, Turkish, Mizrahi Jewish, North Levantine, South Levantine, Arabian. Then you have the Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews in between this cluster of 12 and those Shemite populations, exactly where Edom is to be. These are the Ishmaelites over on the right-hand side. These are the Edomites in the middle.
These are the 12 tribes of Israel in the red circle.
East Slavic, Baltic, Central European, Germanic, Balkan, French, Italian, especially North Italy, Sicilian, Spanish, South French, Basque, Sardinian. These 12 pools share not just a common paternal line, but a common total genetic heritage. The autosomal DNA of thousands of years living together as a people. 10 of 12 of these pools have R as their single highest Y DNA haplogroup, and all of them have haplogroup R at least as a co-dominant. The Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jewish populations appear outside the European circle, positioned between European and Levantine clusters, consistent with Edomite, mixed Shemite ancestry. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Ada the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Holibama the daughter of Anna, and the granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. Also Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. So he took 2 Canaanite women and an Ishmaelite, and as a result, his genetics over time pulled out of the...
Where do you even start with this? Okay, where do you even start with this? Okay, because everything that's coming out of this man's mouth is a lie. All right, this man is a devil, and this is why we call Esau Edom the devil that the Bible speaks of. He is a deceiver. First of all, your nationality, all right, your nationality comes from your father, not your mother. And that is a fact. Let's get it in I think it's 1st or 2nd Chronicles. We'll get let's get it, I think where is this? Slacky, y'all. Bear with me. Because this guy, it's clear he doesn't know how to break down the scriptures. It's clear he doesn't know prophecy, right? He doesn't know any of it. All right, let's get 1st Chronicles 1:35. We'll start here. Okay, this is where you get the lineage of Esau. Okay? And you notice anytime you have a lineage or a nationality or a patriarchy that's listed, the bloodline of a specific man, it's always listing the male children, the sons. It's because that is where your nationality comes from. All right. 1st Chronicles 1:35. It says the sons of Esau, Eliphaz, Ruel, and Juesh, and Jalam, and Korah. Okay. So those are Esau's sons. Those are the Edomites. And from those, you get different tribes in the nation of Edom. Everybody he listed on that chart over here, everybody he listed on this so-called chart, all right, Turkish, whatever he said, right? All these people, these are Edomites. Matter of fact, that's the beast right there. That's the beast. Isn't that on our camp sign, who these people are? Let's keep reading. It says the son of Eliphaz, Teman, that's a tribe, and Omar, and Zephi, and Gatam, and Kenaz, and Timnah, and Amalek. Look at that, another tribe. The sons of Ruel, Nathan, and Zerah, and Shema, and Mazah, and the sons of Seir, Lotan, and Shobal, and Zibeon, and Anah, and Dishon, Dishon, and Ezer, and Dishan. Okay, these are all the Edomites, man. You can keep going. These are the Edomites. Now, those are their names, right? Where can we find out? Because, it's so obvious that, when you read scriptures like Numbers, let's go to Numbers, the 12th chapter. Let's see if we can find out, okay, what the Israelites actually looks like. Because the scriptures are very clear when it talks about being the color of brass, being the color of copper, right? Being as a jasper and a sardine stone, right? Dark burnished bronze, right? Let's get this. Numbers chapter 12. Yeah, let's start at verse 5. This is Numbers 12 and 5. And it says, And the Lord Yahweh came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam. Now remember, Aaron and Miriam were complaining about Moses' wife and his decision to marry an Ethiopian woman. Okay, both Aaron and Miriam, which are Moses' brother and his sister. All right. And they were complaining. All right. And they were talking shit, basically, about Moses' decision to take another wife that was an Ethiopian and not an Israelite woman. And this is what the Lord did right here. He says, And they both came forth, and he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so. Now remember, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam are all from the tribe of Levi. These are Israelites. All right, we're going to get a description here. It says, My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of the Lord Yahweh shall he behold. Wherefore then, it says, Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant? So this is why you got to be careful when you're speaking against the men of the Lord, because, the prophets, the Lord doesn't play about, who his prophets, his men are. Okay, you come against the men of the Lord, you're setting yourself up for a major punishment. All right. Verse 9, it says, And the anger of the Lord Yahweh was kindled against them. That's Aaron and Miriam. And it says, And he departed. It says, And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous. Now, this is a skin condition, right? Read it in the NLT or the NIV. It says, When the cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. Now, what is the description of leprosy in the Bible? Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Okay, so white skin, having a lack of melanin, having a lack of pigmentation, is known in the Bible as a skin disorder. It's a disease. It's called leprosy. All right. And that's what happened to Miriam as a punishment for her speaking against Moses. You notice how the Lord did not punish Aaron. He punished the woman, because the woman has no business speaking and moving her, flapping her gums to a man of the Lord. The woman is supposed to be in the back, quiet and silent. So what did the Lord do? He took away her melanin. Remember, these are the children of Israel who just got out of the Egyptian captivity, being slaves in the Egyptian desert. And now they're walking through a desert, okay, in the Sinai Peninsula, okay? Miriam, behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us where we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let not her be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. Verse 12 is significant because Aaron is referencing the birth of Esau, Ishashua in the Hebrew, which means he is wasted. That's why Isaac, right, when Esau came out first, right, Genesis 25, when Esau came out first, that's why Isaac named him Esau, okay? Because he was leprous, right? Genesis 25:25, it says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And it says, and they called his name Esau, Ishashua. He is wasted. Okay. That's why it's being referenced in Numbers, the 12th chapter. Now it says red. Why does it say red and not white? Because Esau, being a leper with the lack of melanin, his blood, the blood that is under his skin, which your skin is your largest organ on your body. It's the largest, the epidural is the largest organ on your body. And when you don't have any melanin, you can see the blood that is running through your veins, okay, throughout your body. You can see it, all right? That's why his skin was red, because when a baby comes out, it's a stressful situation for the baby, so the blood pressure might be a little high, right? And so as a result, Esau came out all red because his blood was showing forth through his translucent, non-melanated skin. And they called his name Esau, Ishashua, because he looked like he was dead. He didn't have any melanin. Okay? So you Edomites, the so-called white people, you're really red. Okay? You Edomites, all right, are those Europeans that he's talking about. He's trying to basically flip the roles. And guess what? I don't think these Christian apologists are going to say anything about it. All right? They're not going to say anything about the fact that, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you're the Israelites. They're not going to say it. Prove to us you're the Israelites. And don't use that bullshit ass DNA. That shit is bunk. All right? We don't use DNA. We use the scriptures, man. Let me get to the part where Moses, okay? This is Exodus. Let's go to this Exodus. Chapter 3. I believe it's the 3rd chapter. Bear with me while I find this, y'all. You know what? Let's just search it. As his other flesh. Yeah, Exodus 4. It was the next chapter. Exodus 4 and 7. Okay, this is Exodus chapter 4. I'll start at verse 6. And it says, and the Lord Yahweh said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand unto thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom. And remember, he's talking to Moses and he's showing him a miracle, an act of spiritual power. It says, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. Right. His hand was leprous. Again, a stripping of the melanin, meaning it was white. Okay. And it says, and he said, put thine hand into thine bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. In contrast to what? All right. In contrast to what? So if he put his hand in and he took it out and it was white, and then he put it in again and it went back to being normal as his other flesh, that means it was melanated. You goddamn devils, you. Let's get another one in Song of Songs, right? What did Solomon say in Song of Songs, chapter 1 and verse 5? It says, I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Let's get this word for black. Let's get this word for black. Black, yeah, it just means black. Yeah. Dusky, look at this. Strong's definitions. Okay? Properly dusky, but absolute. Jetty, black. He's talking about his skin color. Okay? Look at here. Song of Songs 5 and 11. Of skin. Of skin. All right? It's can't be any clearer. And Solomon, was he not a Jew? Was he not an Israelite from the tribe of Judah? Huh? Was his father not King David, who was ruddy, meaning a reddish, copper tone of brown, a dark-skinned man, right? Was that not the case? Let's get Job. Job chapter 30. Let's go all the way down to verse 30, right? Job 30 and 30 says, my skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. Job said his skin is black. All right? His skin is black upon him. I want to see if see if Kedar. I thought it Kedar meant something. Kedar.
Strong's H 6938. Kedar. Kedar.
Look at that. Look at that first definition. Kedar equals dark, right? So Solomon is comparing his complexion to the tents of Kedar, which are dark. It can't get more clear than that. Dusky of the skin or the tent. So Solomon was a dark skin, dusky man. All right. Let's see if we can look up brass. Okay, I believe it's in Ezekiel as well. Those 4 living beasts, right? The 4 living beasts in Ezekiel were described as brass. Ezekiel chapter 1 and verse 7. All right. It says, also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. These are talking about the angels now. Okay, the sons of God in the heavens, right? It says also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. Read it in the NIV. It says, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human. Yeah, because they're humanoid. They look like, Israelites. Okay, because they are. They are the sons of God, right? It says, and everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. 4 faces meaning their countenance, all right? They had the look of like, an eagle, which is a proud look, the lion, which is a strong look, right? Or a royal look, okay? And so on and so forth. Not that they actually had 4 faces, one on each side of their head, okay? It says, and their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. Burnished brass. In the NIV, it says burnished bronze. Let's go get that online. What do these creatures look like that look like men? They look like human beings. And what color were they? Burnished brass. Let's get that color. Okay, let's get this. You see these metals right here? See the dark colored metal? That's brass, okay? Burnished brass. Now look, they have a lot of golden type colors. Like that's not burnished. This is burnished. That's burnished right there. This right here, this isn't fucking burnished. So Esau, as we get, bring out these, goddamn, $500. As we bring out these scriptures and we're proving who the Israelites are, Esau's going to throw this bullshit in here. Okay. Yeah, he's going to throw bullshit in there like that and put golden and other colors in there. But this is burnished brass right here. Let's just type in skin, right? Let's type in skin so we don't get confused. Let's just do this. Burnished brass skin. Look at that. bronze, because in the NIV it says bronze, right? That's bronze. That's what the angels look like. Those creatures that came out of Ezekiel's wheel, the so-called UFOs that have been released, that the government is now admitting exist, right? Here we go. Burnt brass. That is exactly what it looks like. All right? So Mr. Tidwell is a liar, man. He's a liar. This is what Tidwell wants you to believe Yahweh Shai looks like. This is what they pushed throughout the ages, man. Through Christianity. That's what they pushed when he really looks like this. Straight facts. All right? They've been deceiving the earth, man. Here's a good picture right here. That's burnished brass. Burnished bronze. Okay? Just so we don't get it confused. And that's why it explains that in Revelation, the 1st chapter. All right? Blaspheme. Because what he did here is blasphemy.